All right, Shia LaBeouf, let's get motivated. Do it! Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow, so just do it. Make your dreams come true. Just do it. Some people dream success. Well, you're going to wake up and work hard at it. Nothing is impossible. Good morning, Maddox. You should get to the point where anyone else would quit, and you're not going to stop there. No, what are you waiting for? Do it. Just do it. Yes, you can. Just do it. Timing's off today. If you're tired of starting over, stop giving up. Oh, yeah. Look at that flex. Woo-wee. Do I think buying a marching snare or tenor for home practice is worth it? No. For neither. Yeah. Just these pads are fine. If I thought it was worth it, I would have bought one a long time ago, but no. It's not worth the money. These are good enough. Especially for snare drum. If you buy an off-world pad, you'll be just fine. But for tenors as well, you'll also be just fine. When I get on a set of tenors, doing good. Maddox, it has been a while. It's all good. Okay, let's warm up. So we're gonna warm up. We're gonna stretch and massage, and then I'm gonna grind out some just like things to improve the tenors. In particular, I'm gonna work on Rodeo, which is a 16th note diddle exercise that you can find inside of here. And we're going to do that with some sweeps or some scrapes, however you want to call it. But like the rebound on Kevlar is different. Nah, I mean, again, like as somebody who marched snare for several seasons, like it wasn't an issue. I have several different types of pads that I've used, and it might take you a minute or two to just like get used to a slightly different rebound. But no, it's not worth the investment. It's like there's a famous quote of like Stephen King where he says that a lot of people will ask him what type of pen he uses or pencil he uses when he's like writing stuff, and it's like that's not the question that should be asked. It's more like, okay, well, how much time do you spend writing? So it's not about like what kind of pad you have. It's more, or like what kind of surface you're playing on, rather. It's more about like, are you actually practicing? And if you're putting in the reps, that's what's going to make the difference. It's not the little details, like whether it's an actual Kevlar head or an off-world pad or whatever. Some people disagree with me, but they're wrong. Yeah, just kidding. Everybody's right in their own different ways. But for me, nah, it's not worth it, which is why I haven't bought any, even though I have the money to do so. Okay, let's see. What do I want to warm up with? Let's warm up with... Actually, let's do 16th note pyramid again. That was a good warm up. Endurance and speed exercises. Weep. And 16th note pyramid. Boop. Nope, not at 120. Thanks, though. Appreciate it. Let's go. To 100. In all my years teaching, there was also like very few students that I've worked with who actually owned a set of like tenors or snare at home. It's just not worth it. Even people marching, very few of them actually had a drum at home. Let's do a praying mantis technique. an interesting question. I'm thinking about it. Praying mantis again? Talk about this in other streams and in other videos, but this is something that they had us do in Vanguard in 05 at the auditions. I didn't make the line. I was the last one to get cut. But is a way to strengthen your taps. Yes, use a doorknob. So there's a video that talks about that on my website, but it's a technique that I learned from Jeff Queen. But a doorknob that has resistance that'll snap back into place, and that's how you can build your strength and endurance. So, stop. Let's go back here. So on my website, all the way down here, how to practice quietly. So I kind of talk about this a little bit in this video, but a doorknob, if you use one that snaps back into place, that can work on your strength, speed, endurance, etc. For your left hand for traditional. So you don't need to like raise it like this and do something like that. So this is good for working on that. For match grip, but for traditional, just use a doorknob. Also works for 4 mallets too, if you're using rotary 4 mallet technique. Okay, so your first question though, or 2 questions ago, I guess I should say, switching to tenors. So there's a lot of things to consider with that, but if you really enjoy snare, stick with snare. Like if you want to play tenors because you think it's fun, you can still do that outside of snare, but if snare is still higher up on your hierarchy, stick with that. In my opinion, that's going to make it so you'll be more likely to want to practice and improve and whatnot. I only march snare, and then when I started teaching, I was playing a lot of tenors and whatnot, so I did both, but I only march snare. So if you plan on going back and teaching, which you have mentioned that you wanted to do, I believe, if I remember correctly, you can still play tenors. It's not like you will never be able to do it again. So that's just kind of my quick thoughts on that. I have seen some bands in particular where they like force students to switch instruments. Like, oh, we don't have enough low brass players, trumpets. We need a few of you to go play low brass, etc. And that sometimes works out well, but usually what I see is like the students practice less. So if you focus on like the things that you are passionate about rather than like the ensemble needs, then you'll be more likely to continue to want to like engage in the grind and whatnot and practice. But just my perspective. DC-17s on tenors? I don't actually know what DC-17s are. What are those? Let's stretch. So we're going to pull in, push out. Woo-wee. If they're sticks, which I'm assuming they are, you can use whatever you want on it. But the problem with like using snare sticks, the Skojos? Skojos are fairly light. At least they were. I mean, maybe they've changed it, but like they were like balsa wood. They felt like nothing back when the drumline that I marched with used to use them. One of the drumlines, that is. But those will be fine on it. It's just the bead of the stick might be too small for the rims, depending on your rim height of your tenors, and then the sticks are a little bit longer. So if you actually look here, so tenor sticks that I'll be using here in a minute, if we go butt to butt, they're a little bit longer, the snare ones are, compared to the tenor ones. So this is going to make it a little bit more difficult. Also, you can see the bead of the stick is significantly larger. That has to do with the rims. So you can still use it. It's just you'll hit more rim, and it'll be a little bit weirder because you're going to have to pull your arms back a little bit more to make up for that little bit of difference in the stick length. But you'll be all right. Again, you can play fantastic things with unideal stuff. Like I would sometimes, when somebody would like break a stick, back when I was marching, just kind of pick up the stick and see like just how much chop stuff I could play with a completely like snapped in half stick where it's only like the tip right here. And like some of the other snares would like joke around like, you just like out chop me with broken sticks than I could with normal sticks. And it's like, well, I mean, it's the motion. It's not necessarily the equipment that you're using. They're just minor differences in the long run, in my opinion. All right, now I want to stretch. Ooh, that feels great. The underside of the tendons. You could do it on the wall. So the lower you go, the deeper the stretch, like I did on Tuesday. But right now, I'm going to do it this way. Just kind of putting a little bit of weight into it, not a bunch. Just enough to stretch both of them simultaneously. Now, the top side, you could stretch it on the wall. The higher you go, the deeper the stretch. You could do this one on your leg, or you could also do it on your pad. Whatever. And stretching the fingers. Feels great. I needed this. Left hand's a little tight this morning. Hitting the bag a little too hard yesterday. Whoopsies. The bag agrees. Don't hurt me. All right, let's massage. Thumb on top, fingers underneath. Going up and down the forearm. Getting nice and relaxed. Ooh, that feels good too. Yeah, the Scojos that I had were Vic Firth. So they're actually there. The pair right here. Those were when he was still with Vic Firth. Yeah, some have there's the Hardiman, there's a Hardiman hammer, there's a bunch of variations. Those are the Hardiman tenor sticks. Like they'll have Hardiman indoor sticks. But yeah, also different brands will have basically the same stick idea in terms of like the weight or the type of wood or the type of tip, but like it'll be for ProMark versus Vic Firth, and they'll just call it something different. I personally have preferred Vic Firth over time, but I have not tried ProMark in a while. We used to use ProMark on Academy, and they're fine. It's just they tended to break a little more than the Vic Firth ones back in the day. This was a long time ago. 20 years ago. Last year I marched was 05. Forever ago. All right, last massage is base to tip of each one of the fingers. Do this a couple times. And then we'll get back into some drumming. And then after the drumming, I'm going to do some more dark wood, which was pretty creepy on Tuesday. It was a cool game. Yeah, one of the videos that recently came out, I turned into a short, talks about like the importance of considering anatomy with technique. So like I had a friend that I marched next to one of the years on academy who had fingers that were like this much longer than mine. Like every one of them, his hands were massive. And so I was talking about how like you have to consider that with technique. So like his hands might look like this for me, but for him it would feel like this because just like his anatomy was just like so much different. So if you have smaller, larger hands, etc., it's going to look different than the people around you. So that's one of the things that some instructors don't necessarily consider. They're so focused on like making everybody look uniform. And it's like, okay, well, this person is like a foot taller than the average snare player, and this person's like a foot shorter than the average snare player. So like their drum height's going to be at a different height than everybody else's rather than making everybody's the same. But that can create some health issues in terms of like I was saying with the hand thing, like how your fingers look and whatnot. Also with like the drum height, it can create some issues if you're playing too high up versus way too low, etc. Yeah, it looks better when it's all even, but is it better for the student? Probably not. All right, cool. So we warmed up with the 16th note pyramid, but now I want to actually do some tenor stuff. So let's do tenor sticks. And we're going to do Rodeo, which is a variation on gallop. And with Rodeo, we're going to slow this down. It's all going to be with sweeps or scrapes. So let's do that. Let's turn the volume up a little bit. So we're going to do outside sweeps, etc. Okay, so same thing, but now we're going to do inside sweeps. Changing the angle screwed me up. Actually pause that. So the issue I'm having is my left was not going over far enough, and when I was doing this to check the angle of something, like my hand like moved over a little bit. So I know that because it was the first note of the diddle. So hitting like that, if it was a second note, you'd hit. So you'd be starting too far over or not moving enough over to get to the second drum. But yeah, so the inside sweeps, woo, rough. Let's do this again. I'm just trying to get some data here. So we're now going to do outside sweeps. We're going down the drums, but we're going to do it with the interior drums. There's a little lip right here. Let's see if you can see it. Got caught on that. Let's move that out of the way. Thanks. There we go. Okay. Try this again. play the wrong pad. Yeah, so I played the wrong pattern there. But the thing that I was noticing is my left hand is actually gone too far. So it's getting closer towards the center of the head rather than keeping it efficient. So that's another thing that I could work on. Let's try interior. Getting a little bit of a slice there. Whoopsies. We'll slow this down here in a minute. So there's a few ways that I could work on this. Like I could just slow this one down and just work on one motion. Another one is the slow, fast, slow, which starts off at 40 and just do diddles. And it slowly speeds up. This is a very exaggerated version of it. Goes to whatever your fastest tempo is, and then it slows it back down again. That we could work on, but I'm just gonna slow this one down. We're gonna go like half the speeds. We'll go to 40, and I'm gonna specifically work on the interior sweeps, moving up the drums, starting with the outside drums, because those were the worst. So let's try and work on that after we just collected some data. Do tenors also worry about slice, or is that a snare thing? Yeah, they definitely worry about it. Some groups do slice more than others, but in general, what you want to have is your vertical motion, the exact same thing. You're just moving, you're pivoting with basically at the elbow and moving around with it. So you don't want to have it so that when you're playing like outside the drums, you go at an angle like this. This would be bad. Ideally, you want, instead of coming at it like this, but you will see a lot of groups when they're playing fast, they'll often get the slice in here to be able to get back into a different motion. So you'll see it, but it's not ideal. The reason why is because it's going to, like that glancing blow is going to give you a different sound quality than if you go straight into the head. So it's going to be less sound coming out of the drum than if you hit straight up and down. Also, it can like, you can mess up, like hit more rims and things like that if you're at an angle. But yeah, ideally you want to have it straight up and down. Ideally. In actuality, doesn't always happen. Okay. I was off by a measure, not looking at the music. I started a second line. Whoopsies. Trying to make it as efficient as possible. My left is better than it was. My right's still a little inefficient. Okay, so we're gonna do it again, but this time with the interior notes. You are very welcome. God is helpful. Just trying to help the community. Cool. Let's go up by 5s for each one of these. So we'll play through it twice. We'll do the outside drums and the inside drums all going up or towards the inside. Many ways to call it the same thing. Yeah, so it's funny you point that out. I was really focusing on that last rep when I was playing on the inside here. So the sticks were vibrating, and it was actually really good with that. I was pleasantly surprised. Whoops. Yeah, so I'm looking down because I'm really focused on the efficiency to make sure I'm not overshooting the drums. Whoops. But the stick hum is actually pretty good. Nice and relaxed. Ah! Oh, there we go. That one feels good. Eastern. I did not see them. I haven't really watched a ton lately. I haven't seen a live show in, I don't know, forever. So, no. But yeah, with fresh heads on, a lot of the top groups, like when you look at it, you'll just see like very distinct placements. The same thing with snare. Like you'll find just like a very small little ring in the center of the head of where they're actually playing on. And if you see stuff like outside of it, it's usually where like the instructor is like keeping taps or something. But yeah, it's very different than like a high school line where there's just like marks everywhere. And then I have a bunch of marks on mine from having my pad here. When it blocks this area up, I'll actually like play over here while I'm just messing around in between tap offs and whatnot. This should be at 50 now. Yeah, it's really impressive how consistent top performers are. It's inspiring. Makes me want to practice more. Oops. Huh. Interior drums. What do I think is more worth it? $100 tenor pad or $100 tenor drums? Well, if the tenor drums are $100, there is likely going to be a reason for that. And they might be really beat up. You'd really want to play on them. Because if it's like somebody's like, hey, I'm like graduating from college. I just need to get out of the house. Like, here's the cheapest offer. I'm willing to part with it. That's different. Then, like, well, it doesn't really, like, it doesn't sit even. Like, it just sags, or like it flops over to one side all the time. Like, so there's likely a very good reason why it's $100 for tenors. So you'd want to actually practice on it first and be like, oh no, this is like a solid set. And the backstory behind it, the lore behind why they're getting rid of it is just like they don't want it anymore, or it like annoys their neighbors, or they moved into an apartment or whatever. Then yeah, go for it. Like, it might be worth it. You can sometimes find deals like that, but usually speaking, it's going to be trash. So like the person is trying to get rid of something because it's not good, in my opinion. But again, these tenor pads, like I've had this one since early 2000s, both of these actually, this pad on pad here. So they'll last a long time if you get something good. If you get something that's cheap, it might not last you even a year. Now left is actually doing better than my right. In terms of efficiency, can't speak. Efficiency. My right is still going a little further in than it needs to. So the efficiency isn't as much of an issue on the interior because you've got your other hand kind of in the way here. Like if I go too far, it's going to run into my stick here, as opposed to here on the outside drums, you could go as far as you want, way over here, because you're not going to run into your stick. But the right hand was going to like here-ish rather than to here. And these brown spots are from the other sticks. When I have the pad here, I just kind of messed around a little bit like this. So those are not my normal playing zones. Only when I'm marching, playing snare stuff, really. For whatever reason, that pad has lately been getting a little old, kind of worn down. But, 20 years old. It's lasted a long time. 60. trying to think where my stock pad is. I can show you. Oops. That's where it's at. It's behind me. Stop. So this is a slim pad, which is kind of like the stock pad, but a little more articulate. But this has the laminate on it, so it sounds different than if I were to take this laminate off. But there's more rebound off of here, but the off-world to me feels more like a Kevlar head. Well, that feels different. I like how articulated this is with the laminate, which is great for being able to hear like a lot faster notes, but this one just feels different compared to a Kevlar. If I put it on here, it'll sound more consistent. But yeah, I always get the laminates on any one of the pads that I'm using, because then it's more articulated. You can actually hear stuff better. I'm pretty sure Offworld now actually sells laminates, but I bought this one a long time ago. They didn't have them then. I think they have them now. Let's go. But again, like the main pad that I used was not the Offworld. That I think I got after I stopped marching. Maybe my last year I had it. So like whatever pad you have will be fine in the long run. Might just take you a minute or two to get used to the Kevlar. I'll cover it up because it's got my phone number on it, which makes it so people don't steal it. Because I've had pads stolen from me. But this is like what I use when I was marching in the backside. So whatever pad you got is the pad that you should use. But that feels nothing like a Kevlar head, and yet still did just fine. Again, it's not the stuff that you buy that's gonna like make you good. It's the effort that you put into practicing. How intentional is the practicing, etc. That's what's really gonna pay off. Let's actually hear what it sounds like with what we started with. Yeah, it's a bummer that people steal stuff, but that's why I wrote my phone number on it and my name. So like, nope, that's clearly mine. That's my number, not your number. Let's call the number. Yeah, so significantly better overall. So progress. Nice. Let's chop out. Let's play something fast. Extra fast. Gotta go fast. But we're gonna go back to here. And I'm gonna play something choppy. Yeah, and they're right. So it's like the people who I don't know, golf's an example that I frequently hear people talk about. Like one of the golf greats, like, I don't know, Tiger Woods, the first one that come to mind. You give him any like set of clubs and he will likely be able to outplay any amateur, semi-pro, etc. It's just like that 1% little boost that he's going to get, whatever percentage it is, if he has like the top of the line, etc. But still going to be about outperform people who haven't put in the work. Like, it's not like you buy the same clubs as Tiger Woods that all of a sudden you're going to be able to like play on his level. That's like the same thing for drumming. Like, just because you buy the exact same sticks as myself or as like people who are way better than myself doesn't mean you're suddenly going to be the next Steve Gadd. Like, you got to put in the decades of practice to be able to get there. But some people are looking for shortcuts, but there is none. There are none. Which is nice, but also that can be unmotivating for some people. All of the skills that I've developed as an educator, as a performer, as a scholar, etc., like that have paid off in the long run, have all been from doing the grind. I've never met anyone who has not done it, who has been a top performer, whether it's as a teacher, as a scholar, whatever. And I've had the privilege of being able to work with some of the best people in multiple fields, both music education, computer science education, etc. It's all about the work. Like, that's the thing that distinguishes people between, like, novices, intermediate, and, like, advanced or expert. It's all about the work. I had some students who, like, didn't believe me with that. They're like, no, you're just born this way. And it's like, no. When I was your age, as a freshman, I was the worst percussionist in the school. I had a quarter note cowbell part cut for me. This is all I had to play. I couldn't do it. It was cut for me. And then sophomore year, I was first chair of every ensemble. What happened between freshman year and sophomore year? When this part got cut for me, I was like, you know what? What happens if I were to actually just practice? So I invested several hours a day. And guess what? I became first chair of every ensemble and stayed that way throughout the rest of high school. Got into All-State, got into regionals, got a full ride percussion performance scholarship. Why? Because I practiced all day, every day, as much as I could, as efficiently and effectively as I possibly could. Screaming at me. So loud. Why'd you do that? It wasn't because I bought new sticks. It wasn't because I had a different pad. No. It was the practice. Wah, wah. Yeah. So there's a lot of people who think it all comes down to like innate ability, but it's wrong. As somebody who, I say that confidently because I'm actually a scholar in music education. I've taught thousands of students, every grade, kindergarten through doctoral student. It's all about the effort. It took me months to be able to play my first flam drag. Literally months just to be able to get it, even like that poorly. But yeah, after 50 hours of practicing in any domain, your brain develops this thing called automaticity. So it makes it so that things become more natural. And at that point, it's indistinguishable between people who have innate ability and people who actually have to work for it. So the people who think that it's all about, well, you were born that way. It's like, no. Let me emphasize again, I was the worst percussionist in the school my freshman year, and then I was first chair of every ensemble my sophomore year. It's because I practiced several hours a day. That's it. And I've seen that with every student I've worked with. Whether they're a music student, computer science student, a scholar. Well, that's my breaking point today. But again, when I first started, like I was playing way down here, slow BPMs. Slowly got better. It just took time. Like if you go here, I'm saying these things not to brag. I'm just saying these things for context. So again, all three of my degrees are in music education. I was a scholar. I was a performer. I received the highest award possible for music education for a dissertation. In 2018, I'm the sole recipient in the entire field for the Outstanding Dissertation Award. That is a big deal for scholars. So, like, I actually know what I'm talking about with this. I'm not just somebody who's spouting out things because I heard it on the internet. Like, I've done research on what it takes to develop skill acquisition or to do skill acquisition to acquire expertise in any kind of domain, etc. It's all about the practice. And I've seen this with kindergartners. I've seen this with doctoral students that I've worked with, etc. Like whether it's in computer science, music education, I've even seen it in like martial arts. Like it's all about just being able to work on it. There are people who are very bad at something who get very good at that thing because they put in the effort. Again, around 50 hours or so is what distinguishes people. Are you trying to learn on tenors? Honestly, I forget it. I learned that forever ago, flammus on tenors, but I don't remember it. I'd have to pull out the Fresh Perspectives, which is like behind my computer. I don't remember it. Your mistake? Yeah. Yeah, so honestly, that's a mistake among many people, is when they first start, like they're just trying to play super fast. And no matter how many times I'd tell students, like, you gotta slow it down, they'd always be like, but that doesn't work. How do you get faster playing slow? It's a paradox. I know, it's weird, but you gotta slow these down. Like, if you are, since you mentioned paradiddles, like if you play like the rudiment zoom zooms, my wife named it, I think it's hilarious. So there's the paradiddle zoom zoom. So if you play through this, and you start at 34, let's say, like, you might be looking at me going, how is this going to help with my paradiddles? Just trust the process. The only reason why I believe that it would work is because I literally got lessons from world champion, like, snare drummer, like Jeff Queen, the tenor soloist from Blast, Vern Johnson, the people who taught them, like Glenn Crosby, who's an OG, who's taught so many world championship groups. Like, I got lessons from those people, and those people who have been able to consistently demonstrate high quality performing and teaching over an extended period of time kept telling me the same things. I was like, let's just try it. Let's just see if this helps. And guess what? It did. So like you're saying, yeah, if you just sit here and practice this at like very fast tempi, BPMs, tempi is plural for tempo, you're not going to get better in the long run. You got to slow it down. It works. I agree. I am absurdly privileged to have been able to study with people who were far better than I ever was. The nice thing, though, now is you can actually learn from people remotely. So one of the things that I did is Netflix, back when it first came out, it had DVD rentals. and if you paid like a monthly amount, you could like just keep exchanging DVDs. And so there's a bunch of drumming ones. And so I just got as many drumming DVDs as possible. And so I learned from like Jojo Mayer and like all sorts of other like really good drummers and learned their different techniques. And I was like, oh, Jojo Mayer says you should do this, and this will help with your drumming. Like maybe I should try working on that, etc. So that's one way that you can do that. But in terms of how I was able to get the opportunity to study with some of those world-class people, one was luck. Like Vern Johnson happened to be teaching at a school like 45 minutes away from here. So I was like, yeah, that's worth my drive to go out there and study with like an amazing tenor player. He was teaching at cadets at the time and at this high school in Arizona. And I was like, sure. So I studied with him for at least a year or two, something like that. But Jeff Queen, like he came out to do the band day in Arizona at Arizona State. And so I knew he was there for like a few days. So I was like, hey, can I get a lesson with you? So I took 3 days off of school. I got a lesson on Wednesday. On Thursday, I just practiced all day to like the stuff that he worked on. And then I got a lesson with him again on Friday. So because I knew that he was going to be in town for that, I just reached out to the drumline instructor at Arizona State, who I happen to know. And this is when I was in high school, and was like, hey, when Jeff's in town, can I get a couple of lessons with him? I'll pay like $100 an hour or whatever it was. It was a lot of money for a high school kid, and it was totally worth it. So I was able to study with him. So when people would come into town, because I knew they were judging a band day, then I would try and get some lessons with him. With Glenn Crosby, what I actually ended up doing with him is I would create a recording of myself playing something, and then he would send back feedback like an email. So he lived in California and I lived in Arizona. And because I knew him from Academy, because he was like a consultant there, I would just send him tapes like once a month of like things that I practiced, and he'd give me some feedback. And that was invaluable. So like that was another way of doing that. But nowadays, you're learning from myself remotely, which is great. Like you can do that with other people who are streaming. Like Drumeo will often have like questions curated from their audience that they'll ask for world-class performers, etc. How did I get the money as a high schooler? I worked all summer. I started working my like freshman year, something like that, like pretty young. I had an uncle who worked at a title agency, and so I did very boring office work, like filed a bunch of papers and all sorts of stuff like that. So I did that all summer, and I just saved up my money. And then throughout the school year, I would also teach privately starting my senior year of high school. So I charged like $15 an hour or something like that, which was also a great way for me to practice teaching and help out some peers who were younger and less experienced than I at that time, etc. So that's another way that I made money. I also like did car washes, just like anything to get some extra money to be able to like pay for those lessons and whatnot. Helped out. But yeah, I had to work for it. Like the first few years of the academy was like a weekend core. Eventually went to all days, but it allowed me to have like, I remember being at the title agency, like on my lunch breaks, memorizing show music. Like I would, in between filing paperwork on my lunch break, I just pull out the sheet music and just like sit there in the break room, just like playing through it. And then on the weekends and some weeknights and whatnot, I'd show up to rehearsals. So it allowed me to do both, march and to make some money, which was good. Good morning, football. How you doing on YouTube? But anyways, I rambled too much. I'm going to tear this down, and I'm going to get ready for some Darkwood, which is a spooky game. And I'm looking forward to playing through that. But all of the play-alongs that I've been demonstrating, and literally over 1,000 more, are free. You can find them here. Link at the top of the screen. JaredO'Leary.com/drum. There's a new drumming tip video that came out this morning. There's currently 53 of them that are scheduled to release. So lots of content. And you can find all of that on my YouTube. If you're on my YouTube, just know that if you see a video that says members only, that just means that it's early access for members, but it's currently scheduled for release. So for example, all of these say member only, but they're all scheduled to release. Like this one comes out in 2 days. This one comes out in 4 days. These these come out in like July, so like give us some time, but all of these will release. So you don't have to pay for any of my content in the long run. They're all 100% free, which is what I want to keep it as. If you want to support the content that I create for free, just share it with somebody else. Use the videos, give it a like, thumbs up, whatever, whenever you see it. All of those things definitely help out. But I appreciate you all. And as always, some good questions on here. Hope I can help out with that. But yeah, I'm going to go get ready for some Darkwood. So goodbye.